In the late 1940s, near the end of World War II, a powerful stimulant was developed to keep soldiers awake for extended periods on the battlefield. Similar substances were already being used by British and American forces. But Soviet scientists wanted their own version, something stronger, something revolutionary. Before it could be deployed, however, it needed to be tested on humans. 5 prisoners of war were selected for the experiment. In exchange for their participation, they were promised freedom once the test was complete. Desperate for release, all 5 agreed. They were placed inside a sealed observation chamber equipped with beds, toilet, a sink, microphones, and a single reinforced glass window, nearly 3 centimeters thick. The experimental stimulant would be released into the room in the form of gas. Scientists claimed it was safe and not lethal, though little was truly known about it. Once the chamber was sealed, the gas was introduced and the experiment began. For the first 4 days, everything appeared normal. The men talked casually, ate regularly, and behaved much like any group confined together. Researchers observed quietly, confident the experiment was progressing as expected. By the 5th day, subtle changes began to appear. The conversation shifted. Instead of light discussion, the men began speaking almost exclusively about disturbing events from their pasts. Their tone grew darker, angrier. Complaints about the experiment increased, but nothing seemed immediately dangerous. On the 6th day, communication between the subjects collapsed completely. They stopped speaking to one another and became intensely paranoid. Each man began whispering into the microphones, accusing the others of horrifying crimes the researchers had never heard of. Their behavior suggested extreme distrust and mental fragmentation. By the 9th day, everything spiraled out of control. Early that morning, one of the men suddenly began screaming. For nearly 3 hours, he ran from one side of the chamber to the other, screaming until his voice collapsed into a raw, broken sound. Eventually, even that noise stopped. Scientists later theorized that he had damaged his vocal cords beyond recovery. The remaining subjects showed no reaction. Instead, they began covering the observation window with pages torn from newspapers, soaked and pressed against the glass, blocking all visibility into the chamber. From that moment on, the room fell completely silent. By the 13th day, the researchers were deeply unsettled. They could hear nothing and see nothing, yet oxygen sensors confirmed the men were still alive. Unsure whether the microphones had failed or something far worse had occurred, the team debated their next move for days. Finally, through a loudspeaker, the researchers announced they would enter the chamber to check the equipment. They ordered the subjects to lie on the floor and remain calm. After 3 full days of silence, a single voice responded. "We no longer want to be freed." Shaken, but reassured, the microphones still worked. The scientists delayed entry. By the 15th day, the silence became unbearable. At midnight, the decision was made. The experiment was over. The stimulant gas was shut off and replaced with fresh oxygen. Immediately, desperate screams filled the chamber. The men begged for the gas to be restored, pleading in panic and terror. When the chamber doors finally opened, the scene defied explanation. Only 4 of the 5 subjects were alive. The body of the deceased man showed extreme trauma, with evidence suggesting self-inflicted injuries. The remaining 4 bore similar wounds. Food supplied to them days earlier was untouched. It became clear they had stopped eating entirely. The survivors refused to leave the chamber, violently resisting any attempt to remove them. Soldiers were called in to assist. One subject attacked a soldier, inflicting a fatal wound. Another collapsed during the struggle, later determined to have suffered cardiac failure. The final 3 were restrained and taken to a medical facility. During surgery preparations, the most severely injured subject fought violently against sedation, repeatedly insisting he needed to return to the chamber and the gas. When he finally lost consciousness, he died instantly. The second subject, whose vocal cords had been destroyed earlier, also died shortly after losing consciousness. Terrified by the pattern, researchers returned the final subject to the chamber, this time attaching brain activity monitors. They observed something terrifying. Whenever the subject closed his eyes, his brain activity dropped to 0, only to return when he woke. Realizing sleep itself appeared fatal, the researchers attempted to reintroduce the stimulant, but before they could act, the subject fell asleep and died. With all subjects deceased, no definitive conclusion was ever reached. Was it the gas, sleep deprivation, or something far darker that emerged when the human mind was pushed beyond its limits? This story became known as the Russian sleep experiment, one of the most disturbing legends ever associated with human experimentation. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next Forbidden Files investigation, where the truth is never comfortable.